So maybe you're new to meditation, maybe you've been meditating for some time, and you're wondering, should you be meditating with music on in the background? Perhaps you've moved on from guided meditations, maybe you would use Headspace, or you'd been using videos on YouTube or something like that, and you've started to now experiment with more focused or more pure methods of meditation, like just following the breath or looking at a candle or using a mantra. And you're wondering, should you have music on in the background? Is it good? Is it bad? Is there any benefit to it? So in today's video, I'm going to break down exactly what you should do, my approach, my teachings, and hopefully that will help you to have a bit more clarity about this question. If you're wondering who I am, my name is Ben. I'm a meditation and spiritual teacher. I've been involved in meditation all of my life. My dad was also a meditation teacher. So it's something that I've been involved in for over 25 years. I got introduced to it when I was about 6 years old. So alongside my own experience and the experience of teaching several hundred people around the world in my online school, the Inner Journey School, I'm going to put all of that time and experience into this video, helping you to gain more clarity around this question. I'm going to break it down into the pros and cons as well, just to give you a bit more understanding about the benefits and some of the drawbacks to having music on in the background. So start with the cons. The first thing that can really be a bit of a hindrance if you were to use music in the background, and when I say music, it can be any kind of meditative music or natural sounds or binaural beats or anything that is separate to the silence, anything that you've added, you know. So one of the cons is that you can become reliant on it. So if it's something that you continually use every single time when you meditate, you always put this music on, but then maybe you go on a holiday, or maybe you're staying at a friend's and you want to do your morning meditation or your evening meditation, and for some reason you can't use the music that you normally have, then that can become a bit of a problem, because you kind of set this expectation of, I need music in order to get to this certain place in my meditation. And so you're in a sense reliant on something outside of yourself to aid the process, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's just worth bearing in mind that if for some reason you're not able to use music, that may hinder you. And it's whether you're happy going along with that risk, and whether you're willing to take the risk of becoming slightly reliant on having the music. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily good or bad. I've put it in the cons section because I would say it's more of a drawback, but it's something to bear in mind. And for a lot of people, I would normally suggest with my students, it's absolutely okay for the time being if you want to use music, but do some meditations without it, just to get used to that, just so that you're not so reliant on having the music the whole time. So the next con is what I call sense control. Sense control. That sounds a bit OTT, but what I mean when I say sense control is when we go into meditation, what we're really doing is we're actually withdrawing the five senses. We're actually sort of, in a sense, closing down the human experience and enabling what is beyond that, our broader consciousness, to be experienced. So we have to start pulling our awareness away from external noises, external distractions, the thoughts that often occupy and veil anything beyond. We're starting to withdraw all of that. And it is a skill to be able to do that. It's something that you can develop, and it's very, very beneficial for all aspects of your life, actually, when you get better at being able to manage your senses, because your ego, I'm saying you, this is the same for me, works through all of your senses. So everything the ego will work through. So for example, touch. If you're struggling with, like, I know it's really crude, but masturbating too much, or if you're like watching porn, or if you're, I don't know, listening to bloody murder documentaries or something, I don't know, something that might necessarily not be beneficial for you, or you're doing it to excess, maybe you're eating to excess or something like that. Oftentimes that is the ego that's actually getting a bit more control over us at that time. So the ego will very much work through the five senses in order to control us. And in meditation, we start gaining that control back. We start withdrawing the senses and actually experiencing more of what and who we really are. But if we're using music, we're essentially kind of buffering out the need to withdraw that particular sense. And so in a sense, it's kind of like cheating. But again, in the same sense that you don't want to become reliant on music, it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just something to bear in mind. I've put it in the cons list because as far as I'm concerned, if you can learn to meditate without music, it takes more of you, and therefore you grow more because there's more for you to actually have to deal with. But once you develop that skill of withdrawing the senses, you grow, it's something that you've developed. So that isn't being developed as much if you've got background sounds going on, background music. The third con on this list is limiter. And what I mean by limiter is, you may have experienced this before. You meditate with some sort of music and you start to become familiar with what's going on in how long. So what particular aspects of the music are coming in at certain times. I'm struggling to articulate this. But for example, it might be that at 20 minutes in, exactly 20 minutes, you know what the sound is of the music at that time. And so in a sometimes conscious, sometimes subconscious way, you start to cap the length of your meditation because you start to judge the length of the meditation by the sound of the music. And if you become, if you start becoming aware that, oh, okay, it's 20 minutes because I know that this particular sound has occurred or this particular part of the song has come in, so I know I'm at 20 minutes. Well, without the music being there, if the music wasn't on, you might not have registered that and you might have gone way beyond the 20 minutes. But because you did register it, you've become more conscious, and that might cause you to stop meditating or just limit it to 20 minutes. So having sounds or music can become a bit of a limiter in that sense. So moving on now to the pros, and I do think there are many pros to having music, and one is the variety. So if you've been on my channel for a little while, you'll know that I talk a lot about finding a meditation technique, one technique, and digging a really deep well with that one technique. Because what a lot of people do is they flit around and they try different techniques and they don't really get any depth with any of them. They just experiment with lots of different types of meditations. Whereas I talk about doing a bit of experimenting, get an idea of what's out there, then picking one of those and digging a really deep well, going deep with that one technique for maybe 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years or more. And that really is the way to get deeper with meditation, finding a technique, sticking with it. The difficulty with that, of course, is it becomes very monotonous. It becomes quite samey. And so one way of spicing things up a bit, keeping things interesting, keeping you motivated and inspired, is having some variety. And you can do that by having different background music on and just varying the music that you play, having different types of music. And that can really actually transform the meditation and really keep you interested, keep you motivated. The next pro is what I call positive vibes. So we've all had it. You're not in a particularly good mood and you're listening to the radio and then a song comes on that really gets you fired up, really elevates you, really energizes you. And in a similar way, meditation music can do that. It can actually inspire more love for the divine, more devotion, more interest. It can be very, very useful for actually enhancing how you're feeling in that moment. So anything that you can do to change your mindset is really, really important. And I often talk with my students about going to a different location to meditate. So don't do it at your desk, don't do it in your bed, because they're places for those particular aspects of work. It can be useful to actually change the location, even if it's in the corner of your room, and having a specific place to do it, because it starts to shift your mindset. It starts to remind you, okay, now I'm going into this particular part of my day, which is meditation. And you might do other things. So you might light an incense stick, you might put a candle on, and adding music to the mix also helps you to shift that mindset. And sometimes I've noticed this with my girlfriend a lot actually, is that she'll get herself in a bit of a mental twist about something. And if she goes and meets a friend, she'll come back in a totally different state of mind. And all she's done is she's changed the environment and she's forced herself to have to think in a different way. And that has enabled her to sort of shift the state of mind that she was in. So with regards to meditation, the more things that we can include into the practice that help us to do that, the better the shift is going to be. If we're in a bad mood from work, or if we've woken up and for whatever reason we're rolled out the wrong side of the bed, having these little factors, these little things in the meditation can make a big difference. So music can enhance this positive vibes. And the third and arguably most important point is energy, frequency, and vibration. Ultimately, as Nikola Tesla rightly pointed out, everything, or the secret to the universe, is in energy, frequency, and vibration. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. And I spoke to a student recently, and one of the things that I talk about a lot within my school is repeating a mantra. And I've explained to the students before that when you repeat a mantra in your mind, you're actually creating vibrations that can have the potential to change the atmosphere. And people say, well, how's that the case? It's in your mind, it doesn't make sense. Well, everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. Even a thought is energy, frequency, and vibration. So a mantra is the same. And in the same way, when we're looking at meditation with the addition of music, music, of course, is just another form of energy, frequency, and vibration. And what people can find is that if we're here and we're meditating and we've got our own vibration, let's say, and let's say our vibration's here, well, if the music interacts with our own vibration, we can find this kind of sweet spot where the music actually enables us to expand in the meditation. It actually aids the process. And I've spoken to other students about this, and I've spoken to one of my students in particular who actually found that there's a certain songs, two songs that Linkin Park it's Linkin Park, isn't it? I can't remember now. No, it's not, it's Linkin Park produced, and that actually enables him to get into a bliss state in meditation. And the reason for that is because, for whatever reason, the frequency and vibration of the particular two songs that he has chosen are matching perfectly with his and elevating him spiritually. So it's definitely worth playing around with different sounds and songs and seeing if any of them have that effect on you and really elevate you. So you can see that there are definitely some cons, there are definitely some pros. For me personally, I think that adding music is a beneficial thing. I think the pros outweigh the cons, and in the same sense that meditation techniques will affect one person differently to another, music and sounds in the background will have a different effect to me than they probably will to you. And so I would encourage basically anyone to try it and just see how they get on. Me personally, I've always meditated without music. I've meditated maybe over all that time, maybe like 50 times with music. It's not something that I normally do, but I know a lot of people do get a hell of a lot of benefit from it. And I think if you're a beginner, especially if you're within the first year or so of learning how to meditate in a more pure manner, adding music can be a more gentle way of building up. So definitely worth a try. I personally think it's a good thing. I think it can really help you. So let me know your thoughts. I'll be interested to hear if you use music in the background of your meditations, how you found that. And equally, if you've tried using music and it just doesn't work, I'd love to hear in the comments below. But failing that, I'll see you on the next video.